That's 617-770-3030. Now, here's the Car Doctor, John Paul, on AM 950 WROL, the spirit of Boston.
And good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the spirit of Boston. My name's John Paul, the Car Doctor, here to help you with your car problems on this Saturday morning. And hopefully, if things go as planned, we'll be talking with Mark Cox. He's the director of the Bridgestone Winter Driving School to try to get some winter driving tips. Also, I want to thank Chuck Bruner. He is the president of the Dedham Retired Men's Club. And I was over there yesterday and spoke for a little too long, I think. I think I was only supposed to talk for a half an hour, 45 minutes. I think I talked for an hour and something. But they thought it would be interesting to, kind of talk about new cars and technology and how things have changed. And what a great group of guys. They meet at the Endicott Estate, and which is in Dedham. A great place for car shows, but also a great. I haven't been inside the building in a little while, and it was nicely restored inside, and they're doing more and more to it all the time. But thanks to the Dedham Retired Men's Club for having me over and letting me talk to them about cars and other things, anything they wanted to talk about, basically. So that was all good stuff to talk about. And on my way back, I also stopped at Junior's Automotive in Hyde Park and talked to Junior for a while. Every time I go there, it's always an experience. And, busy shop there in Hyde Park, right on River Street, and he's got another shop down in Middleborough. And we chatted back and forth for a while and then had to head back off to work. But just interesting time. Today, the car that got me here, we'll talk about that in a little bit, is the Cadillac ATS, the new small Cadillac, competitive with a BMW 3 Series, and that's what they're hoping for. But it was a pretty interesting car, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And, of course, we want to talk to you about your cars and whatever's on your mind about things, and we'll do that as well and cover some of the information that was in the news. There was some recalls we'll talk about. Subaru and General Motors both had recalls, and about how hybrid cars are doing and a bunch of different things. So I have a few things to talk about, and as well as the winter. And we haven't had much of it yet. We've had a little bit of winter. But we haven't had a lot of winter yet. But it seems like people kind of forget how to drive in the snow, and it's important to remember how to drive in the snow. And who knows? Maybe this climate change stuff means something. But we've had a little bit of snow on the roads. People forget how to drive in the snow. But with us on the phone is Mark Cox. He is the director of the Bridgestone Winter Driving School. And hopefully Mark can provide us with some tips about what to do in the wintertime. Good morning, Mark, and welcome to the Car Doctor program here in Boston.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thanks. So it's winter time, and there's snow on the roads, so you just drive as fast as you can and tailgate as much as you can. Is that what you're supposed to do?
Well, you can, but it'll be a short career.
Yeah, exactly. So probably the best thing to do is, just really kind of evaluate a little bit. But before we get into that, tell us about the Bridgestone Winter Driving School.
Well, basically, we're located in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and we operate 7 days a week, all winter long. And we have programs for both safety and performance-based needs. And I have, in the last 2 years, had people come here from all 50 states and about 15 countries for a variety of different programs, everything from the new driver to law enforcement groups to pro racers.
Oh, okay. But for the average person, and here in New England, last year we barely got a snowstorm, it seems like, and the year before that, it seems like all it did was snow, and people just sort of forget a little bit. They forget what to do in the wintertime. I think they're confused about sometimes how the car is going to handle in the wintertime. Everyone remembers what Ed, their driving school instructor, said to him: steer in the direction of the skid. But nobody knows what that means.
Well, first of all, you have to determine which wheels are skidding. If your front wheels are skidding, that technique doesn't apply. If your rear wheels are skidding and the car is tending to spin, then in that case, yes, you can steer into the skid, or we like to say, look in the direction that you'd rather have the car be going and point the front wheels there. That makes it a little clearer for most people.
Yeah, and that's easy to remember, but it's important to be able to look where you want the car to go, because let's face it, if you're staring at the big oak tree, you're going to hit the big oak tree, right?
Absolutely, and anytime you find yourself in a challenging situation in a car or traffic or even most sports, always look for the way out. Don't focus on the problem, because our hands and feet are hardwired to react to whatever we're looking at, and inevitably that's where we end up. So don't look at the car sideways in front of you. Look at the gap on either end of that car.
Absolutely good point. And here in New England, we also, fortunately or unfortunately, depends where you live, I suppose, we have some animals that cross the roads, things like deer, and further up north, moose. I know I was driving in on the highway, and I'm looking by the edge of the road, watching the side of the road, and there's a family of 5 deer trying to decide if they want to cross Route 95.
Right, and this time of year, that's something to be expected in a lot of parts of the country.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things that you have to adjust your speed to the conditions, and that is definitely an important condition to pay attention to when you're making that speed adjustment. And I can't speak for everywhere in the country, but generally when you see one deer or elk, you're going to see more, because they all tend to move at the same time.
Absolutely. So we want people, when they're driving, we want them to be aware. We want them to be continually scanning, and we want them to look for the way out, right?
Absolutely. And remember, too, that it takes from 4 to 10 times longer to stop on ice and snow. So as a driver, you have to be looking that much farther ahead to identify problems and respond appropriately before you become involved in someone else's problem.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that I think kind of a misconception from the old driving school days is this idea of, and it's in good weather more than bad weather, the idea of 1 car length for every 10 miles an hour. Is that a smart car, or is that a Lincoln Town car length?
Especially in winter conditions, that's more of a Lincoln Town car or a 1-ton truck car length.
Yeah, so the idea of going to a better way to measure that distance is in seconds, right?
Absolutely. You can just pick a landmark on the side of the road, whether it's a tree or railroad tracks or a billboard, and just count the time between you and the car in front of you when you each pass that landmark.
And what's a good, on a dry day, what's a good number of seconds to leave between you and that car in front of you?
Personally, I like to leave 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't always have that option based on traffic, but you should certainly increase that on ice and snow, because on ice and snow you have to remember that all of a sudden you have an added performance advantage or disadvantage. For example, if you have snow tires and the car behind you doesn't, and they're following too closely and you hit the brakes and you can stop quickly and they can't, it obviously becomes a problem.
Well, you bring up a good point. Snow tires are so important. I like to think of tires as shoes for your car, and you need to wear the right shoes to do the right thing, and you wouldn't wear dress shoes to play basketball, and you wouldn't wear I was going to say sneakers to a wedding, but maybe you would. I don't know. But for going out in inclement weather, you need to really think about the right tires for your car, and to make sure that if you're going to be out in 2, 3, 6, 10 inches of snow, all season tires may not cut it anymore, right?
And the other thing you have to be aware of is not just what type of tire you have, but the life of that tire. I mean, obviously in deep snow, the best tire to have is a brand new winter tire.
Yeah.
But it's important to pay attention over the life of your tire and realize that, particularly in deep snow, tread depth is really the biggest part of that equation. So a half-worn winter tire now gives you performance based more closely on a brand-new all-season tire.
Right. Good
point. A half-worn all-season tire gives you the performance in snow of a summer tire. And really, summer tires have no place on ice and snow-covered roads.
That's right. And speaking of traction, and I like to call it the Volvo factor, although that's probably picking on Volvos, but people that have all-wheel drives or four-wheel drive or SUVs or those types of vehicles that they're out there in the left lane in a snowstorm with 4 inches of accumulating snow on the ground, doing 70 miles an hour. Those are the ones we see by the side of the road at some point, right?
And if they're lucky, they're still right side up.
Yeah.
But all-wheel drive is interesting. I mean, it's a great tool. There's no question. But just because you mash the gas and the thing leaps forward, it gives a lot of people a false sense of security, and they assume that because it was so easy to make the thing accelerate, that it must corner and stop better, too. And that's not the case. It really doesn't matter when you're coasting through an icy turn which wheels propelled the car to get you up to speed so that you could get through that corner. And we hear a lot. It's like, a front wheel does this and a rear wheel does that. The reality is it doesn't matter which wheels propel your car. If you're using good driving technique, they all handle very similarly.
Yeah.
If you're using bad technique, the differences are specific to the drive configuration.
So all-wheel drive gets you up the hill, going down the hill, we all turn into toboggans, right?
Absolutely. We're all equal there.
Yeah. There's a little controversy between me and another fellow here in New England. What to do if you're driving down the road and the roads are a little bit slick and someone goes to stop in front of you or something happens where you need to make an evasive maneuver. Or you're in some sort of a skid. I'm the take your foot off the gas, don't step on the brake, look and turn in the direction where you want to go. My buddy is similar to that, but he's get on the brake, get the weight to the front wheel so you have more steering input. What's your thought?
My thought, I'm kind of in the middle.
In the middle, great.
My thought is get on the brake as hard and fast as you can.
We have beer wagered on this, so
the best is a combination of both. Get on the brake as hard as you can in a straight line. Get the car slowed down as much as you can. A, so you get that little bit of weight transfer, and B, so if you do make a mistake and you end up with an impact, it's at a much slower speed.
Right.
And also at a slower speed, you have a better chance of looking where you want to go, take your foot off the brake, and steer there. As you said. But keep in mind that with modern ABS, you can keep your foot planted firmly on the brake and steer. Does it give you 100% steering effectiveness as if the wheels were rolling freely? No, but it's very predictable. And, you should in some ways think of ABS, not just as a stopping tool, but it allows you to brake and steer.
I was gonna use that line. You took it away from me. But it does, and we try to tell people that it really does. It allows you to brake and steer at the same time, but people also need to go out and make sure that they know what their car is going to feel like. So go find that parking lot that's a little bit slick and get going 25 or 30 miles an hour, jam on the brake, and feel what the ABS feels like. Don't let your first ABS experience be the one on a snow-covered road with a tractor trailer in front of you.
Absolutely, and just kind of get used to the feel and the sensation, and play with what it feels like to go on and off the ABS. Even halfway through a corner in full ABS, if you release it and you're under the traction limit, the steering will increase immediately because it's not trying to combine braking and steering.
You're right. It's just so important. So a couple things we need to keep in mind. We need to make sure we have the right tires on the car. We need to make sure we have tires with sufficient tread on the car. We need to not drive like an idiot, right? Probably kind of
adjusting your speed to the conditions
is right.
Like the number one rule of winter driving. And that doesn't just mean slow down. Because sometimes somebody that's unprepared going too slow is just as big or a bigger problem than somebody trying to go too fast.
Right.
But, there are a lot of factors. The road surface, traffic, whether it's day or night, your abilities as a driver, what kind of car you have, they all factor into that speed adjustment decision.
So Marita, my producer, is a skier. So when she wants to go out to Steamboat, how can she find out more information about the Winter Driving School? Well,
she can check our website at winterdrive.com, or she's more than welcome to give us a call at 800-WHY-SKID, WHYSKID.
Well, it all sounds like good information. Mark, anything else you want to add before we let you go? And I think you're going to work today, right?
I am working today.
Yeah.
The one thing I would point out is that there was a recent study done that showed that 80% of accidents could be avoided if the driver had 1 extra second to react. And in almost every case, if the driver's looking far enough ahead, you can gain that 1 extra second.
That's an interesting point. And the other thing is, what percentage of crashes do you think happen because the driver does nothing?
Statistically, I don't know, but we hear of it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of times. That's exactly what you hear: is a car in front of them stopped, or something happened, and the person did nothing and just kind of ran into them. So I think you're absolutely right. Paying attention, adding that extra time. There was a fellow who used to work here with me on Saturdays, and he went to an advanced driving school, and they really taught him to learn to keep that 3 or 4 seconds of following distance, to learn to scan down the road 15 or 20 seconds ahead all the time, to watch his speed. So he always had at least 5 to 7 seconds of viewing distance. And he went from it seemed like a crash every 6 months to so far so good as far as I know. So it's really all about, you're absolutely right, keeping that extra second of following distance, having that extra second of reaction time can make a big difference. And unfortunately, as we get older, our reaction times slow a little bit.
Well, interestingly enough, a lot of people think that good reactions make a good driver. The reality is that if a driver has to react, he's already made a mistake. Because you want to identify a problem early enough, you just respond appropriately, not react.
So that's where I can say that Marita has much quicker reaction time than me, because she's a third of my age, and but maybe I have that experience that allows me to scan and pay more attention and be able to anticipate something going on, right?
Right.
I need a little
good reactions are great.
Yeah.
But a good reaction with the wrong response or the wrong technique can create even a bigger problem faster.
Yeah. So practice. Don't let the first snowstorm be your first visit to the auto body shop, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
We all have to remember that driving is a physical sport. It requires a little bit of feel and a little bit of focus, and most of us haven't done it for 6 or 8 or 9 months. So it really is worth putting a little practice and focus on that technique early in the season.
Absolutely. It sounds like all the right advice, all the right tips, the right tires. Be prepared, and don't go out there and I'm gonna pick on another tire company. Don't go out there and dress like Mr. Bibbium, the Michelin tire guy, right? You want the right clothes. You want the right clothes that are going to let you react quickly and not to be too overdressed, right?
Absolutely, because especially during the course of a long trip, it's better to have a high flow of warm air than a little bit of very hot air where you kind of get drowsy.
Yeah.
So fresh air is a good thing.
Fresh air, yeah. 250. We say it at work. 250,000 people a day fall asleep behind the wheel. Most of them only for a fraction of a second, but you don't want to be one of those 250,000.
Absolutely. So you want to stack the deck in your odds.
That's right. Mark, thanks for taking time out of your Saturday morning and joining us up here in Boston, where today it's 45 degrees and cloudy and no snow. So,
my pleasure.
All right, take care. That was Mark Cox, the director of the Bridgestone Winter Driving School. We need to take a break. Our phone lines are open for you at 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. And I have a few more tickets to the Boston Auto Show to give away. And if you would like them, simple enough, give us a call at 617-770-3030.